Welcome to my YouTube channel. Hit the like button, share your thoughts, subscribe, and tap the bell icon. You're doing what with that? The sterile white walls of the Earth Biological Research Command (BRC) echoed with the low hum of artificial lighting. Deep inside the Arctic vault, beyond 10 levels of biometric security and near absolute isolation from the outside world, a meeting was in progress in Lab 4B. Scientists and specialists were gathered around a central holotable, discussing the unthinkable. And human reproductive viability in 0G remains limited, which is why the fertilization trials are still failing. Dr. Lena Morris said, swiping through a series of gene maps and charts. Even artificial womb chambers can't simulate the required hormonal matrix. A few of the team members nodded. Others yawned. The topic wasn't new, just depressing. But then a voice, clear, calm, and utterly wrong, echoed through the silence. Wait, humans reproduce like that? Can I try to? The room froze. Chairs creaked. Eyes turned, some toward the door, others to each other. No one had spoken. No one should have been able to get in. Then they saw it. A figure, short and round, with shimmering teal skin and large, luminescent eyes, stood just inside the room. It blinked slowly, curiously. It wore what looked like an old Earth-issued jacket, torn, oddly child-sized, and bearing a patch that read, Origin-6. What the hell? Whispered Captain Bryce, the facility's security lead, reaching for the tranquilizer concealed in his coat. The alien raised its three-fingered hand. Don't be afraid. I didn't mean to frighten you. I only wanted to learn. You speak English? Lena managed, stunned. Yes. I picked it up from your minds while you were dreaming. A silence heavier than Arctic snow settled. Dr. Morris stepped forward, cautiously. What are you? The alien tilted its head. I don't have a name like you do. Your kind would call me a failure. Its voice trembled not with fear, but with something more human. Regret. Where did you come from? Lena asked. I was born far away, but I think part of me was made here. On Earth, I came because I wanted to understand. I wanted to know how you do it, how you make more of yourselves. You mean reproduction? Someone asked warily. Yes, the alien nodded. My people lost that long ago. We no longer change, no more young. We live forever, and it makes us empty. The room was silent again, but this time it was different, sadder. The mystery was deepening. How did you get in? Bryce demanded. There are 30 biometric locks between the surface and this floor. I didn't go through the doors, the alien said simply. I came through memory. What does that mean? Lena whispered. The alien walked over to the holotable, stepping carefully between stunned scientists. Its body shimmered faintly, like static in the air. It placed one hand on the projection of a fetal development diagram, traced the curvature of a digital embryo with reverence. We dream of life, but cannot create it, it said. Our bodies forgot how our minds learned to live without children, without change, without death. But something in me remembers. A fragment, a whisper. Lena's heart beat faster. Wait, she said. You said part of you was made here. What do you mean? The alien looked up. I see faces in my dreams. A man in a silver suit. A woman with freckles. A red planet. I hear singing. Lullabies I never learned. I remember hands holding mine, even though I've never had a parent. You ask how I learned to speak, but I think I always knew, because part of me is human. A long silence. Then Lena turned to her assistant. Run a bioscan now. The assistant, pale and shaking, initiated the field scanner. A thin beam swept over the alien's body. The computer stuttered, beeped, and displayed the results. Lena stared. Impossible, she said. There's human DNA, a 6.3% match with. She stopped. The name blinked on the screen. The file was marked classified. Commander Elias Monroe, presumed deceased, Project Origin, Mir, 1977. Her breath caught in her throat. That can't be right. He disappeared nearly 50 years ago. His craft was lost beyond Saturn. The alien looked down at its hand. I think I was made from someone like him, or maybe I am him, a part of him. I don't know, but I need to know more. I need to feel what you feel. Dr. Morris stepped closer. Why now? Why come here at all? The alien's gaze pierced through her. Because my kind is dying, Dr. Maurice, and I believe your species has what we lost. What's that? She asked, almost afraid of the answer. The aliens smiled faintly. the need to begin again. And just as suddenly as it had arrived, the alien stepped back and vanished, dissolving into a faint shimmer in the air like a memory disappearing upon waking. All that was left behind was the jacket, and a question none of them could shake. What happens when an alien longs to be human? More than we do. He was never in the records. The security logs showed nothing. No breach, no motion sensors triggered, no unregistered life forms, no doors opened. And yet, the alien had been there in the lab, among them, touching the holographic embryo like it was sacred. Captain Bryce stared at the security feed in stunned silence. The timestamp matched the exact moment the scientists had seen the alien with their own eyes. But on the recording there was only the team, talking, working, staring blankly at nothing. What kind of trick is this? He growled, slamming his fist on the console. Dr. Lena Morris stood behind him, arms crossed, trying not to let her unease show. You saw it too, Bryce. Don't pretend you didn't. I felt it, he corrected, tapping his temple. It was like it was in my head, not real. Lena looked toward the lab window. Snow swirled beyond the thick glass, endless white stretching across the Arctic wasteland. Real or not, it left something behind. The jacket. She reached into a sealed containment case and lifted the small, weathered jacket. The patch stitched into the front origins 6 looked faded but authentic. Fabric tests confirmed it was made of 1970s-era Earth materials. But there was one detail that chilled her more than anything. The jacket was identical to one in a photo she'd seen years ago. A photo of Commander Elias Munro, the man who vanished with the last deep space probe during Project Origin, a program long buried beneath red tape and classified levels so high most people assumed it was a myth. That jacket had belonged to his son. Bring up the original files, Lena said. Bryce hesitated. They're locked under DEFCON red access. I don't care. Pull them. Moments later, they sat in the dim glow of Lena's lab, a decrypted dossier glowing between them. The header read, Project Origin classified research brief, abandoned mission, launch of autonomous genetic probe vessels into deep space to test human DNA, adaptability in non-Earth ecosystems, objective, cross-species viability, controlled exposure to unknown environments, primary crew, Commander Elias Munro, lead genetic donor, AI directive, POLANL. Scrolled through lab, notes some handwritten, scanned in grainy resolution. Words stood out like sirens. Memory-seeded embryo protocol. Gene imprinting via emotional encoding. Sympathetic neural link. Human instinct mimicked via dream exchange. Her voice dropped to a whisper. He didn't just vanish into space. They sent him to seed the possibility of hybrid life. Bryce scoffed. You're saying the alien was made from human DNA? From a dream memory-based embryo? It's not just science, Lena replied. It's memory, emotion, human instincts embedded in something non-human. A beep interrupted them. Her assistant, Malik, leaned in through the doorway. Dr. Morris, you'll want to see this. Back in Lab 4B, Malik displayed the full bio, not just the surface results, the deep core scan taken from the alien's brief physical presence. Lena's eyes widened. His cells are adapting, Malik said, not just mimicking human biology, evolving. Every few minutes, they were shifting shape, stabilizing. His genome is reshaping itself in real time based on environmental stimuli. What stimuli? Bryce asked. Us, Lena said softly. Our presence, our voices, our emotions. She pointed to one sequence glowing on the screen. This is where it gets strange. That's not just any DNA. That's familial DNA. Elias Munro's lineage. Malik clicked a new tab. I ran a comparison on a whim. Guess what? We found a 98.2% match in our own base archives. Munro's family line didn't end with him. Lena's breath caught. You mean you, Dr. Morris? Malik said. Quietly, you're a distant descendant. You share a bloodline with Munro. She staggered back, eyes wide. That's not possible. My grandfather was he served in aerospace defense during the late 70s. But I thought. Malik nodded, covered up, redacted, hidden. The air grew colder, even inside the heated lab. Do you think that's why the alien connected with you? Bryce asked. Because of your bloodline? I don't know, Lena murmured. But he remembered a woman with freckles. A red planet, a song. You'd think he remembers you. Or someone before me. Someone encoded into his creation. An ancestral memory. Another alert blinked on the console. Surveillance drones picked up an anomaly outside North Quadrant. Perimeter ice shelf. They rushed to the main screen. There, just at the edge of visibility, stood the same alien figure, arms out, staring up at the sky. Snow swirled around it, but its body glowed faintly, resisting the cold. "He came back," Lena whispered. "No," Malik said, pointing. "He's not alone." Next to him, flickering in and out of visibility, was another shape, taller, more humanoid, unstable. The alien turned toward the drone camera, as if sensing them watching. Then it spoke. "You have something we need, something we've forgotten." And then both shapes vanished in a shimmer of air, leaving only a glowing symbol burned into the ice, an emblem none of them recognized. But Lena felt it in her bones. A seed had been planted, and Earth was no longer alone. Project Origin never ended. They weren't supposed to open that room. Room B13, deep below the research center, hadn't been touched in over 4 decades. It was sealed with 5 layers of biometric locks, encrypted physical keys, and a sign that read simply, "Retired, do not engage." But after the second sighting of the alien and its cryptic message burned into the Arctic ice, Dr. Lena Morris convinced the board to give her unrestricted access. The authorization came reluctantly, but it came. Now Lena stood before the reinforced vault door, with Captain Bryce at her side, both of them uneasy. She placed her hand on the panel. "Dr. Lena Morris, access code, Sierra Echo 8 for Kilo." There was a pause, then the sound of old machinery grinding. The vault hissed open. Inside, a faint blue light blinked from the corner. Everything else was dust and silence. They stepped in. The room was a time capsule. Vintage computer consoles, reel-to-reel data drives, paper, files sealed in vacuum tubes. On the far wall was a mural, hand-painted, fading with time, a stylized image of a human, holding hands with something alien under a red sun. But the real treasure was a cylindrical data core locked inside a cryo case, marked Project Origin. Genetic HO Commander Elias Monroe, final transmission. S fingers trembled as she plugged the drive into the center. Console, static. Then a man's voice, calm, tired, almost defeated. Log entry 2917. Commander Monroe, if you're hearing this, Project Origin may have worked, or it failed so completely someone came back to search the wreckage. After transmission failure from the Andorras Gate, Pollen rerouted the embryo packets into deep space probes. "I volunteered for DNA seeding, a biological fallback," they said. "One last test of genetic memory transfer. One last hope to blend human instinct with alien form." He coughed. "I've seen things, life forms that defy reason. But one of them, Unit, Ecosep, responded. It began to dream, to feel. My memories, my lullabies, my regrets. It imitated them, not with logic, but longing, as if it missed something it never had. I think I made a child out there, not mine by blood, but mine by soul. If you find it, don't fear it, teach it, let it grow, and tell it." I sang that song every night, even when no one was left to hear it. The recording ended. Lena stared at the monitor, speechless. "Eco7," she whispered. "That's him. That's the alien." Bryce rubbed his jaw. So this was a backup plan. They weren't just testing survivability. They were planting human essence across the stars. Lena nodded slowly. Project Origin wasn't about saving humans from extinction. It was about spreading the idea of humanity, embedding our emotional DNA where biology alone would fail. Malik's voice crackled over the comms. "Dr. Morris, we've got movement outside the perimeter again, but it's different this time." They reached the observation deck and stared through high-powered scopes. There he was, Seco-7, standing at the center of the snowfield, arms outstretched, skin glowing faintly pink where once it shimmered blue. He was changing, morphing, flesh and light blending, limbs extending and retracting, struggling for shape. He looked like clay being molded by invisible hands. But he wasn't alone. Behind him stood a second figure, taller, incomplete. It flickered like a broken projection, caught between dimensions. It didn't move. It simply watched. "Another one," Bryce muttered. "But this one, it's not stable." Lena zoomed in. The taller entity's shape distorted violently. Its face was a hollow, blur, eyes constantly shifting, like it couldn't decide what it wanted to become. "What are we looking at?" Malik whispered. Lena swallowed hard. "A failed transformation. or one that hasn't found the right anchor, a human connection, a memory to cling to. Eco 7 found one through Mithra Monroe. This one hasn't. Suddenly, Eco 7 collapsed to his knees, face contorted in pain. The taller entity surged forward, and the storm around them exploded into chaos. Snow twisted into spirals. The air warped. Lights across the facility dimmed, flickered. Instruments went haywire. Then Eco 7 screamed, but not in a voice alien or mechanical. It was a human scream, raw, pained, real. And Lena heard something else underneath it. A word, a plea, help me. She didn't hesitate. Before Bryce could protest, Lena raced down through the emergency chamber and into the snow. The wind tore at her coat, howled in her ears. Visibility dropped 2 meters, but she kept going. She found him collapsed, glowing faintly. His eyes opened, wide and terrified. I don't know what I'm becoming. You're remembering, Lena said gently, kneeling beside him. It's overwhelming, but you're not alone. I saw others, like me, but broken. They didn't change, they just screamed. They didn't have someone to anchor them, but you do. She took his hand. You came back here for a reason. Something brought you back to Earth. His eyes filled with a strange, human wetness. Tears, will it hurt? Lena squeezed his hand. Becoming human always does. Back inside the facility, scans showed the taller entity had vanished the moment Eco 7 made physical contact with Lena. Malik stared at the monitors. He chose his form. It's stabilizing. He's becoming one of us. But Lena knew this was just the beginning. Somewhere, far beyond Earth, there were others like Eco 7, and if they came looking, they wouldn't all be looking to become. Some might come to reclaim what they think was stolen. For now, though Eco 7 had made his choice, and for the first time, in his new voice, he spoke. My name is Eli. He had chosen to begin again. The ones who remembered us. Lena had never seen someone or something adapt this fast. 3 days after naming himself Eli, Eco 7 had begun forming complete human vocal patterns. His limbs had normalized. His skeletal structure was nearly indistinguishable from a young adult male, though his organs remained semi-biological and reactive to stimulus in impossible ways. He walked, talked, even laughed. But every night, when the lights dimmed and the corridors quieted, Eli would stand at the edge of the observation deck, staring out at the horizon like he was waiting for someone, or something, and Lena knew. He was remembering them. The others, Dr. Morris, Eli said one morning, his voice clearer than ever. You said humanity values truth. Can I ask you something dangerous? Lena raised an eyebrow as she sipped her coffee. Dangerous how? Eli leaned forward. His pupils flickered between round and slitted, like his eyes were still deciding what species they wanted to be. If someone created you from fragments of a dream, and then left you alone in space, would you love them for the gift, or hate them for the abandonment? The question hit harder than she expected. That's a very human question, she replied after a pause. What does your instinct say? I want to love them, Eli said, but something inside me remembers fear, screaming in a place with no stars, a cage made of songs, and a red sky that never changed. Lena put her mug down. The red planet. He nodded. They called it Haven, but it was never home, not really. Bryce entered the lab just then, holding a data slate. Sorry to interrupt, but we've got a situation. Orbital sensor net picked up an anomaly entering the exosphere. Objects slowing, holding in high altitude hover. No communication, no response. Lena's face paled. How long? 20 minutes ago. It's just sitting there, watching. Eli stood. They've come. The ship was unlike anything they had ever seen. It wasn't mechanical. It moved like a living organism coated in a semi-translucent membrane, pulsing with soft green-blue light. No engines, no thrusters. It hovered in silence, as if reality itself refused to resist its presence. But the most terrifying part was what came next. A low-frequency pulse, not sound but thought, broadcasted directly into the minds of everyone at the station. ECH-07. You were not meant to choose. Return. Lena gripped the edge of the console. Her skull buzzed. So did Mollick's. Bryce winced in pain. Even the base AI glitched momentarily. Eli stood still, calm. They are the ones who came before me, he said. The ones who didn't find anchors that remembered me. What do they want? Bryce asked. To undo the human inside me. Hours passed. No additional communication. No movement. but the pressure in everyone's minds remained. That night, Eli knocked softly on Lena's door. She let him in. He sat across from her, his gaze heavy with something new. "I don't want to go back," he said. "You don't have to. They'll come for me, then we fight." "You can't," he said. "They are memory-locked constructs, built from the same code that made me, but without identity, without choice. They were never taught emotion, only order. I am an accident, a mutation." Lena reached out and took his hand. "No, your evolution." He smiled. It was small, trembling, but real. "Then I have to give them a choice, too." The plan was reckless. It had to be Dot. Eli would interface with the entity in orbit, not physically, but through the psychic channel. It using the neural amplifier once designed for deep space dream sharing. Lena and Malik reconfigured the chamber to transmit human emotional resonance instead of raw thought. "You want to teach them feelings?" Bryce asked. "Yes," Eli said. "Or at least, the possibility of feelings. I'll use my memory of you, all of you. The things I've learned, hear your voices, your songs, your warmth. And what if they reject it? Then they'll destroy me," Eli said calmly. "But they'll know what they destroyed." The chamber hummed to life. Eli stood in the center, eyes closed. Lena placed the headpiece gently over his brow. "You don't have to do this alone." He looked at her. "But I'm not alone. You're part of me now." With a soft hum, the link activated. The room dimmed, and Eli disappeared, not physically, but something deeper. His body glowed with fragments of imagery, childhood laughter, the hum of engines, the Arctic wind against frozen glass, Lena's voice telling a joke, Bryce's grumble, Malik's curiosity, the old song from Monroe's logs. The chamber pulsed, the bass trembled, and above Earth, the alien entity twitched. For the first time since arriving, it moved. Its surface flickered, not in anger, but confusion. A second pulse. This time it came with a voice, soft, distorted, unfinished warmth. "What is this?" Eli's head jerked, eyes glowing golden. "It's choice." Then the sky above the Arctic burst with light. The entity began to split, not in destruction, in division. New shapes emerged, smaller, less defined, like embryos, trying to crawl out of their prison. One by one they detached, dropping like stars into the sea of white snow. Lena screamed, "Eli, come back." "What's happening?" The chamber shut down. Lights blinked. Silence returned. Then the doors opened. Eli walked out, weak, pale, but smiling. "They chose," he whispered. "Some of them chose to feel." That night, beneath the dancing auroras, the world changed. 8 shapes wandered the snow, newborns in form, but old in origin, unstable, incomplete, but curious. And Eli, now fully human in form, but more than any human had ever been, stood with them, teaching, singing, becoming. When Earth remembers war, not everyone welcomed the miracle. The moment Earth confirmed that 8 alien entities had landed and begun adapting to human emotional resonance, every major nation activated its defense protocols. Within 48 hours, the Arctic outpost, once a remote research station, was surrounded by drones, warships, and diplomatic observers. Satellite feeds, armed guards, aerial patrols, and silence. The kind of silence that happens just before someone decides to pull a trigger. Lena stood on the command deck of Outpost Aurora, watching politicians argue through bulletproof glass. None of them looked like they wanted peace, only control. Eli, now almost indistinguishable from a young human adult, sat quietly beside her, watching it all. "They're afraid," he said. "Not of us, but of the unknown." Lena nodded. "They see 8 beings who were never born here, who didn't evolve on Earth. They can't understand how something alien could become more human than most of them." A voice interrupted. Through the intercom, "Dr. Morris, President Henley requests your presence." "Now," she sighed. "Here we go." The war room smelled of expensive suits and cheap suspicion. President Henley, head colded, sat at the center of the long table, surrounded by military brass and scientists from every major alliance. He didn't look at Lena when she entered. He looked at Eli, standing beside her. "That thing," Henley said flatly, "has altered global psychic patterns within a 30-mile radius. It's triggering spontaneous empathetic reactions, memory flashes, even dream syncing. That's not mind control." Lena raised a brow. "No, it's connection. You're just not used to seeing humanity shared without violence. General Vaughn leaned forward. Doctor, we're not here to debate philosophy. We're here to understand the threat. Eli spoke, his voice calm but firm. I am not the threat. I'm the bridge. And they, he gestured toward the ice outside, are what happens when alien design meets human hope. We didn't attack. We chose to become. President Henley finally looked at him. And if your kind decides not to become, what then? Eli didn't blink. Then you'll face them the way you've always faced what you don't understand, with fear. That night, a missile was launched. Unofficial, off the books. Fired from an unmanned drone, aimed not at the outpost, but at the edge of the ice field, where the youngest of the new entities had begun learning to walk. Lena saw the launch on her screen, realized what it was. She ran, screaming, calling for Bryce, Malik, anyone. Intercept it. Got intercepted now. The missile streaked through the sky like a white arrow of betrayal, but before it could hit, the entity nearest the impact site designated Beta turned, its face to the sky. It didn't move, didn't run. It simply remembered the same way Eli had, and the missile stopped, mid-air, then slowly crumpled, folded like paper, as if reality itself decided to forgive the weapon. It dropped harmlessly into the snow. Every sensor went wild. Some short-circuited, others began recording music, ancient lullabies, heartbeats, cries of newborns. Beta knelt in the snow, its form shaking, not from fear, from effort. Eli reached it moments later, falling to his knees. You didn't react with anger, he whispered. You chose restraint. Beta's surface shimmered, and for the first time, its face settled. A soft, childlike smile. Lena, watching from the deck, turned toward the monitors. They're not gods, they're children, children of memory. And someone just tried to murder one. The world took notice. The incident sparked outrage across global channels. Leaks showed that the missile came from a rogue defense subroutine tied to a private weapons conglomerate. The news spread. Protests, campaigns, #let them choose trended for 72 hours. But even as the public rallied, leaders met behind closed doors. Whispers grew of quarantines, preemptive detainment, biopsychotesting. Lena knew what that meant. They wouldn't wait for another sign. They would act, quietly, permanently. So she made her decision. It was Bryce who helped her steal the access codes, Malik who sabotaged the surveillance feeds. The plan was simple. Get Eli and the others out, into the wilderness, away from the eyes. Where will we go? Eli asked, as they crossed the frost-covered ridge. Lena glanced at the sky. Someplace human kindness still exists without a name. You'll find your way from there. He nodded. Will I see you again? Lena's throat caught. You already do. Every time you choose mercy. Eli smiled, then reached out and gently touched her temple. Suddenly, a flood of memories washed through her. Not hers. His being born on a forgotten moon, hearing Monroe's lullaby, the cold of Haven, the fire of transformation, the joy of laughter, the taste of coffee, the sound of her voice calling him Eli for the first time. He let go. Lena staggered back, breathless. You gave me your life. No, he said softly. I shared it. Then, with a final glance, Eli turned. The others followed. Across the horizon, they vanished into the aurora-streaked sky, walking like ghosts made real. Later, officials stormed the outpost, found nothing, no entities, no stolen tech. Only Lena, sitting quietly, smiling like someone who had witnessed something holy. When they asked her what happened, she said only one thing: they left us better than they found us. The memory of kindness. 5 years later, Lena Morris stood at the edge of what was once Outpost Aurora, now buried beneath ice and silence. Only a marker remained, an obelisk of obsidian and titanium, inscribed with one line: We remembered you. No gods, no satellites, no politics, just the wind and memory. The world had changed, though not the way governments had feared. The entity's ally and the 8 that followed had disappeared. No attacks, no invasions, no mass influence campaigns. Just silence. And then, something else. Across the globe, small things began to shift. A girl in Morocco wrote music she claimed came from her dream songs no human had heard before, echoing with celestial harmony. A blind man in Mumbai began painting scenes of alien landscapes, rich with light and color he could never have seen. A child born in Iceland instinctively knew the name Eli and often asked when he was coming back. Scientists called it a psychic echo. Skeptics called it nonsense. But Lena knew better. The memory of kindness had seeded something in humanity, something impossible to measure, something evolutionary. When Lena returned to civilization, she was called a liar by some, a prophet by others. She refused all interviews, declined every government post. Instead, she became a teacher, not of science, but of empathy. She wrote one book, just one. It was banned in 3 countries and translated into 40 languages within a month. Its title, Becoming Real. In it, she described Eli not as an alien, but as a mirror, a being built from fragmented tech, abandoned memory, and one human song who found meaning not in power, but in belonging. She ended the book with the question that haunted her, even now. What does it mean to remember something you never lived? Meanwhile, somewhere in the wilderness of northern Siberia, strange lights had been reported, faint glows at the edges of forests, unnatural auroras near the ground. Locals claimed to hear music in the trees. A few whispered about the children of the sky. One old man told a wandering journalist, "They come when someone cries alone, and they listen." Of course, no one believed him, but Lena did. She returned to Siberia during the 5th winter since the day Eli left. She walked through frostbitten woods and frozen rivers, following nothing but instinct. And then, on the 6th night, she saw him. Eli stood beneath the northern lights, unchanged, yet transformed. His features were sharper, more defined, more human. But behind his eyes, something ancient still flickered. Around him were 5 others, not the original 8, only 5. Some had not made it. Some, she later learned, had become something else. Not dead, just evolved beyond form. "Hello, Lena," Eli said softly, his voice still like a chord played in harmony. She approached. Slowly. "I wasn't sure I'd find you." "You didn't. I found you." He smiled. "You never stopped remembering." She swallowed. "Why now?" Eli gestured toward the trees. "Because the world is ready, or close to it." She frowned. "Ready for what?" "For the next bridge." He explained it not in words, but images shared directly into her mind. They were not the only ones. There were others like him, scattered across the stars. Failed experiments, forgotten constructs. Echoes waiting. For anchors, humanity had done something unique, not by defeating the unknown, but by embracing it, by giving it names, voices, songs. What happened in the Arctic had rippled. Other echoes had heard it, and now they were listening, watching, waiting to see if humanity could not just create kindness, but sustain it. "Will we?" Lena asked. Eli's face turned toward the sky. "That depends on what story you tell next." Later, that night, sitting beside a small fire made of chemical warmth and synthetic wood, Lena asked the question she had been carrying for years. "Why did some of you not return?" Eli didn't answer immediately. "They didn't die," he finally said. "They chose transcendence. Their forms couldn't hold what they became. They aren't bodies anymore. They're songs, feelings, stories passed through time." He looked at her. "One lives in a storm, another in a violin. You've heard them without knowing it." Lena's eyes filled with tears. "Will I become that too?" Eli reached for her hand, just as he had years ago. "You already are." When Lena returned to civilization once more, she did not speak of what she saw, not directly. Instead, she opened the Haven Project, a worldwide initiative focused on integrating emotional intelligence, shared memory research, and empathetic AI. It was controversial, disruptive, funded quietly by private benefactors who had once seen the missile fall in the Arctic and regretted it. Students from every corner of the world enrolled. The curriculum wasn't about power, it was about connection. And always, in every classroom, Lena left a single empty chair. No name, no explanation. Just a place, in case someone returned. 10 years later, the world didn't end. It didn't become perfect either, but there were fewer wars, more music, more strange dreams that children didn't know how to explain. And occasionally, in the middle of nowhere, someone would meet a stranger with golden eyes and a quiet smile, listened more than he spoke, who never seemed to age, and who always left behind the feeling that something important had just happened. Most never spoke of it, but they remembered. They always remembered, because once, long ago, an alien had learned how to be human. and made humanity want to remember how to be more. The end.